watching this online on the EARJ TV channel. My name is Kenneth Horrocks. I'm the Gávea via Sapientia trip coordinator. I did this job the last time we ran via Sapientia in 2019, and we're running those trips again, and we're really happy and excited we can do it, because for 2 years couldn't. And we noticed the difference for the motivation of our middle school. It has such a huge impact. I've been at the EARJ for 4 years, and you might have heard of the Sugarloaf trip, mountain climbing trip last year. Did you hear about that in the yearbook? Some rock climbers. So I led that trip, and the Jardin Botanico trip. Organizing trips for young people is one of my passions. I think this is going to be my 87th trip to organize as a teacher. I'm trying to go for 100. I've done them in Africa, in Portugal, in Costa Rica, and I think it's really a wonderful thing to do. So I'm very happy to be doing this again. The first point is, when is it going to happen? So we've selected the week of the 17th to the 21st, and we've decided not to go on the 17th. And the reason we've decided not to go on the 17th is because there's a holiday the week before. And we thought carefully about what it would be like to come back from a holiday to Buzios or wherever you go, and then suddenly be going to via Sapientia. We thought one day to check in, one day to think, okay, have I packed my bag? Do I have my toothbrush? Do I have my waterproof? Am I completely clear on what time we're leaving? Would be a good idea. So we're going on the 18th to the 21st. That means we're back for the weekend. Back on Friday, back for the weekend. For the kids to recover. I can tell you right now, they're not going to sleep very much. Partly because they'll be so excited. And when you put kids together really excited, they struggle to sleep. And it's a joyous excitement. We know that. And partly because they're going to do a lot of things. It's going to be packed full of activities. And so they will sleep when they come back. Why do we do these trips? We have a couple of specific goals. Leadership. Experience of leadership, we believe, is very important. And it's hard to get that in a classroom setting. So in all the activities we run, we provide opportunities for our students to be a leader of an activity in a welcome. Great experience. Have a seat. Just making sure, this is the grade 6 presentation. Yes, good. And they're going to be in charge of an activity. They're going to take responsibility for their friends. And then they're going to reflect on how they did afterwards. So that's something important. Brazilian culture. So EARJ is the site of the very first national park in Brazil. We've selected these destinations with an idea that they should see them, they should know them. Because we are an American school in Brazil. I mean, we could take them to the US. I think they're not quite old enough yet. But it's great to take them somewhere which has an important meaning. And this relates to things that we teach in classes as well, particularly in the social sciences. And team building. This trip would be so much easier to organize at the end of the year. All that time to get ready, okay? Instead, myself, Ms. Phillips and Valeria are running around making sure that we're organized. It's in 2 months, guys. because we know that it has such a big impact for them to go at the beginning of the year, as a generation, be together, do something amazing, be together 24/7, with teachers as well, with their advisors, has a major impact on them as a generation. Not just this year, but every year at the EARJ. So you talk to our seniors about via Sapientia, they say, oh yeah, that was great, that was big. So it has a lasting impact, and we do it at the beginning of the year to bond them together. It makes everything go more smoothly, because generations are really important. We want them to graduate together as a happy team one day. We want to finish this year as a happy team. So it gives us a chance to strengthen those bonds. How do we do it? Well, there's two ideas. One is what we call a transformational learning experience. It's something which you've done, which has an impact on you, not just as an academic, not just on your mind, but on your whole self. Something you'll never forget. A memorable moment. I really believe in creating those at school. I think school needs to have those. So let's face it, a lot of the stuff we teach in classes, in 10 years' time, they might not remember. I know that. I had some seniors contact me in the holiday from the class of 2022. They don't remember my lesson on ecology. They don't remember my lesson on how the brain works. But they remember when we did the Group 4 project on Sugarloaf Mountain, we climbed that trail. And we were the first field trip that happened in the pandemic. You know, they remember going to EARJ Botanico when it would open just for us. They remember that forever. And they tell me they remember that forever. So these were about experiences like that. And secondly, outdoor education. Nature is a great teacher. Fantastic teacher. Because nature teaches you without having to make you listen. Oh, I don't feel like bringing my waterproof on this hike. I just don't feel like it, you know? I'm going to leave behind. Don't feel like it. Oh, it's raining. Whoops. I should have brought it, shouldn't I? Now I'm wet. Now I've got to go ask the teacher if they can help me. Nature teaches that. It provides consequences in a gentle, safe way, without needing to be told anything. And it's also beautiful. And EARJ is very beautiful. Have you been to EARJ? Has anybody here been? It is a wonderful area in Brazil. And another thing about outdoor education, adventure learning, it teaches you self-reliance and grit. You know? And we need this. We need young people who can learn to have a dream, have a goal, and persist, and not give up, and not be fragile when they fail. Have small failures. And get up and try again. Very important. Okay? You slip, you get up, you try again. If you don't have this, and you have students who, when it comes to the academic pressure of the IB in grades 11 and 12, they're too fragile. They take a test, they fail it, they burst into tears. Because they haven't had that chance to develop that grit, an ability to persist in failure. So outdoor ed is fantastic for teaching that. How are we going to do it? First of all, they need to be in teams. And the teams will have student leaders, rotating student leaders. Okay? So your child might be in charge of their team when they do the hike up Morro de Corto in the Tatiaia. Beautiful hike. They might be the team in charge of when they improvise, they go to the national park and learn how to improvise tools. They have natural materials. They may be in charge of their team when they go to the farm and see where does food come from? Okay? Food comes from Zona Sul, right? No. Okay? Food comes from farms. People milk cows to get that milk. People get eggs from chickens. What do people do to create food? They're going to be in charge, and there's also a EARJ teacher responsible for a team. And the treehouse staff. Treehouse are the agency that we are working with. And we work with them. The last time we ran Via Sapientia trips, it's the same people. We know who they are. We've got a great relationship with them. And they will be in charge of organising the activities. So Treehouse organisers and EARJ staff are along to experience the trip with the students, monitor specific teams, and take care of them. There will be a reflection in the evening. There will be morning check-in for equipment to make sure that they're okay. Phones are going to be available for part of the day. So students will have limited access to their phones. They're going to hand in their phones during the day because we know how addictive those are. We know how they love their phones. We don't want them climbing Moho's-Quarter with a phone like this. They will have their phones, and part of that will be during the time between dinner and the evening. They'll be able to message you, let you know how the day has gone. You'll be able to talk to them. Part of the time, we'll have those. When they do the activities, not only will they have a leader, they'll have someone in charge of remembering what they did. A couple of ways this could happen. They could write a little diary. They could also take photos, but they might not have their phone with them. So if you have an old camera at home, like I do, because everyone used to take photos with cameras, right? Remember that? You might have an old camera that you don't mind them taking. Not everyone needs to have one. We'd like some students to have them to document. So the Via Sapientia program is part of what we do. It's happened for 20 years or more. I mean, I talk to people who, like Miss Mary Sa, Miss Nancy, they'll tell you about Via Sapientia. It's a big tradition. And it's something which we can't do at school. We really want all students to attend. That's the goal. Now, we recognize there's two reasons why a student might not be able to attend. One is health. So if your child gets sick, then please don't send them on the trip. They're not going to have a good time. If they're sick, if they've got fever. So that's important. And another thing is, we do have behavioral expectations for this trip. And we will talk in advisory to the students. They will actually reflect on what expectations they want on the trip. And there's a piece that we're going to encourage them to think about how they want to go on Via Sapientia. And as they get excited, think about the behavior that they have in class to make sure that they're ready to do something like this. Because this involves more responsibility, okay, being with school. Dr. Howard, would you like to say anything about the behavioral piece?
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming in. I know some of you, this is the repeat because you have children in different grade levels, and thank you for braving the beautiful Rio weather. I guess, well, just having had this experience in other schools as well, we know that for some students that struggle with behavior expectations during the regular school day with adults that they have a good relationship with in the confines of the classroom, we want to be very careful that they understand that, look, we need a bit more from you if we're going to put you on a bus to go to a fairly high risk, if you will, adventure. But at the same time, we also know that for some of those students who do struggle in the classroom with following expectations, it's exactly this type of experience that can be life-changing for them. So I'm trying to balance that. It's not just a matter of, well, if this child misbehaves too much, can they not go on the trip? Every child's situation is going to be different, but I do want to incentivize our grade 6 students to really think about, if this is, like I had one boy, and he's going to remain nameless, 2 days in a row he's in my office. This is how I get to know grade 6 children. 2 days in a row he's in my office for doing something he shouldn't have done. Now, if it's 2 weeks in a row and 4 weeks in a row, then it becomes a question of how are we going to get you to think about changing your behavior? Because look, we have this wonderful opportunity and all of your friends are going to be there and we don't want you to miss it. Sometimes that's enough of a connection for kids. So that's kind of where I'm at, and you know, we have 70 plus kids in grade 6 right now. They're very energetic and enthusiastic, and we like that, and we want this opportunity for all of them to be able to go on this trip. And then, of course, obviously the behavior on the trip is a different issue, and that's something that Kenneth and the team work very closely with the children to understand, and it's really kind of one day at a time, because we hate to get in a situation which happens probably every year, and certainly has happened in schools where I've worked, where then we have to send a child home, because it just was a context that they just struggled too much, and it impacted the other kids on the trip as well. So, but we're going to try to pre-correct for that as much as possible. All right?
Thank you, Dr. Howe. So, the main priority on these trips, as it should be on every trip in a school, is safety. So, how do we make sure that it's safe? First of all, next week a team of EARJ specialists are going, and Treehouse, are going to risk assess. That means visit the site of every activity which will take place and make sure, it's been a few years, right? Are there any hazards? Are there any new hazards? Is everything fine to bring our students there? Are there any steps we need to take to mitigate risk? And then on the trips, we will work with the head of security at the EARJ to make sure we have the human resources with us at all times. In terms of the outdoor ed part, one of the reasons we work with Treehouse is because their staff are trained by Outward Bound. If you've heard of Outward Bound, they're one of the leading outdoor ed, adventure learning programs in the world, and their staff are highly trained to deal with emergency situations. Treehouse staff are trained by Outward Bound. So, there will be sessions and advisories for students to think about their expectations. They will be involved. We will have a behavioural contract as well. Just some ideas about what would be expected. Our values are that they will be respectful, responsible, safe and kind. Let's go to let's see, I'll start at the beginning. Photos afterwards. So we're going to go and see the first national park ever in Brazil, which leads to reflection on why national parks are necessary. They're going to learn some navigation. There's going to be a navigation challenge that they'll follow. They'll learn some skills in navigation which you cannot learn using Google Maps. They will learn to use compasses. They will learn to take bearings. They're going to do a hike, fairly low level but very exciting hike up Morro de Salcorto. It feels like you're climbing a really impressive mountain. It does. It's got an amazing view. It's very dramatic. There's a little bit at the top that you have to scramble up, okay, which not everyone will do, the very last bit. And you need to learn some skills to do that, because it's not easy to trek. And there's going to be some amazing experiences, partly being on top of that mountain. They're going to learn where food comes from. They're going to be visiting a farm. They're going to be helping to milk cows, look after chickens, okay? Find where food comes from. And I always love this part. They're going to visit the first national park in Brazil. They've got a very nice history visitor center where they really make that come alive for them. So there's some really strong experiences there. The hotel where we stay is really nice. some photos. There are geese, okay? Those geese are fantastic for waking us up in the morning, as I remember. Rooms, very nice. That's some pictures of the hike itself. As you see, it's very impressive. But it's actually not a very difficult hike. They can definitely make it. Beautiful. I'm going to go over some details here, but I don't require you to remember this stuff at the moment, because we're going to send out packet information. Not next week, but the week after. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to ask for. Confirmation of trip attendance, September 5th. And then that includes some documents. There's a medical form. Yes, my child is well enough to go on this trip. And by Brazilian law, there's a travel authorization form. And the piece there is that there needs to be copies of parents' IDs, and they need to be parents and student IDs. They need to be authenticated. This requires the services of a lawyer. If you would like advice about any part of this process, our middle school secretary, Valeria, is a fantastic person to speak to. She knows exactly what to do here, and she will help you. Payment deadlines are going to be September 15 and October 15. So not for a while yet, and in a month. The cost of the trip, I'm not going to give a precise value today, because when we go to the pre-visit and look at the activities and say, okay, yes, we're going to do that, no, we're not going to do that, based on the risk assessment, it'd be round about the 4,000 mark, round about there. It's a little bit more expensive than the other trips because of the hotel. It's slightly more than the others. We'll send a second package of information to you closer to the time with more practical stuff, like what do I bring? Okay? Where do we meet? How do I contact someone if there's an emergency at home? Who do I, that's going to be there. A nice thing to have in your mind right now is just, okay, so we've got a few weeks till September 5th where I'd like to have my form signed and submitted to the school and the documents. That's just something to have in your mind. There's a slight difference in the protocol for a Brazilian and a non-Brazilian child, just to note that. Okay. If you've got any questions that follow through, or think of any questions later, please contact us. Does anyone have any questions now?
We'll make the slides available. I'm not sure, I could potentially post them in my blog today as a PDF. We'll just make sure that you have all the information. This was just an introductory opportunity, and thanks to Kenneth, who's done this before, and it's really exciting. We were really excited, and I think that the students, it's a great thing for them to be proud of once they've accomplished this 4 days away. That was kind of my big deal when I was in 6th grade at Lulu Walker Elementary School in 1975 or something like that. That's not important, but that was a big deal to be away for a full week. So, but I have great confidence in our team and in Treehouse, and this is a tradition here, and I think that I'm just glad that we can get it restarted. So, if you think of questions, again, you can email Kenneth or myself. We'll make sure that those get answered. Look for further emails coming up. And we'll be sharing this information with students very soon. so that they also can begin to, visualize what this is and can count down. I mean, it's less than 2 months away, so it'll get here very quickly. Okay?
Thank you very much for coming today.